Coaching Soccer Weekly, episode 376, Coaching Mentality, entertaining, educational, and inspiring soccer content to help make you a more effective coach, player, or soccer parent. Hello and welcome back to Coaching Soccer Weekly, presented by World Class Coaching. My name is Sega Rabinovich, and this is the podcast devoted to bringing you cutting-edge methods, techniques, and tactics for coaching soccer. It doesn't matter if you're an experienced coach who has been training teams for many years, or if you're new to coaching and working with the team for the very first time. There's something we can all do to take our coaching to the next level. Welcome back to the show. I'm excited to talk about this weekend, the tournament. We have a really good topic today. I'm excited to dive into that. We'll talk about a little bit of the Gold Cup and some other cool stuff that I did this week in training. Something about shooting, which I thought was a really interesting way to teach players shooting. But we'll get into that a little bit later on. And I'll start off with this weekend. So this weekend, we had a tournament in a place called Peterborough, which is a couple of hours away from where I am. It's a very small town northeast of Toronto. It's only about an hour and a half from Toronto, but I'm north from Toronto, so for me it ended up being a couple of hours, which was okay. Friday night we didn't have training, so I was able to go up Friday during the day. There was a school fun fair, which is something that the local public schools do here to raise money, and we always give something to the auctions to help them raise money as well. So Friday was no practice day, which means I got to go up a little bit earlier. So I started driving east towards Peterborough and got to get a round of golf in, which was really nice. Checked into the hotel Friday evening. I did some other stuff in between that as well. So checked in. The hotel was about 5 minutes away from the field, which was excellent. Waking up and not having to worry about traffic. Not something that I'm used to, but yeah, so from that point of view, really great. I'll tell you a little bit about kind of the organization, because I thought the way the tournament was organized was really great. We were in the second division, and in the second division, there were two different brackets. Each bracket had 3 teams, and you would do a round robin. So 2 games, the top team would go through automatically into the semifinals. And then the next 2 teams would go in and battle each other out in the quarterfinals. So if you ended up finishing second in your division, you would face the third place team in the other division. So I just thought that was a really good way of doing things. Now, the team that we bring in for our tournaments is mainly a 2011 team with some 2010 players. So they're playing up a year. 2010 is the first year that we can officially play tournaments here in Ontario. There's no sanctioned tournaments before that. So under 12, which is what the 2011s usually are, is festival format, which means no scores, no standings, no nothing. So this was really not the first experience, but this summer is the first experience for the 2011s and the 2012s to play in a competitive atmosphere where there's scores that are recorded, there's playoffs, things like that. So, from a coaching point of view, I really took the wrong approach. I'll be completely honest with you. So I went in Saturday morning. I watched the 2 teams. We had a late game, so I watched the first game of our, call it division, play. So I was able really to see the teams that we were up against, and I thought we had a really good chance against them. And because of that, I went in with just a winning mentality, going in and just thinking to myself, we can do really well here. And I think that was the wrong way to approach that. And now I'm going to start to bring up something else that happened this weekend, which was the Gold Cup final, the US and Canada game. I'll say this, I think our tournament team played the exact same way as the Canadian national team, and that is not a good thing. If you watch the Canada-US game and you kind of focus a little bit more on Canada, which is what I did, then you'll know that Canada pretty much didn't really try to go through the thirds. They didn't try and go from the first to the second, from the second to the third. Once they got to about half, they really started to look at long balls and crosses, and they didn't really try and break the teams down, the US down. They just kind of kicked it long at certain points and, hope for the best. And that's really what we did on Saturday. Now, our results were really good. We tied against the team that in the first game destroyed the other team. So they beat them 5-2, 6-2. So we tied against them, and having that been their second game and that being our first game, I thought was really good. We were down 2-0. One was an own goal, which was a mistake from building out of the back, which I was okay with. And we ended up tying 2-2 by the end of the game. But again, our goals were free kicks and penalty shots and stuff like that. That was really the Saturday. And then the long balls, which is just not the way that I wanted to play. And after our second game, which we won 4-3, again, from a results point of view, we did great. We ended up second out of the three groups and didn't have a loss. I went home and I was frustrated. I was upset and I was mad. And I use that word mad very specifically because I don't like being mad. I'm not a person that gets mad. So I was mad that I was mad because we came out, from a standings point of view and from a results point of view, did really well. But for some reason, I couldn't get over it. And I started to reflect, and it was really my attitude that needed work. And I'm not afraid to admit it. I was yelling too much. I was concerned with the win too much. And because of that, I didn't see what I wanted to see. And the mentality of the coach, which is really what this show is going to be about, is really how the kids end up playing, right? So we ended up going into that Saturday with the mentality of let's win no matter what, let's win and go for it. And that's just not who I am as a coach. That's not in my core beliefs. And because of that, I was mad, even though we had a really great day from a results point of view. So we went into Sunday. I reflected a lot that night. And we ended up playing the third place team. Now, unfortunately for us, the other bracket was very well balanced. So each team had a win and a loss. So they were all tied. So it really didn't matter who we played. It was really just about goal difference. So we ended up actually playing the team that I think won the tournament, or at least made it to the final, that team. And we lost. We lost, I think, 4-2 or 5-2, something like that. But I was very happy with our performance. One of our goals started from the back, and this is 11v11, and we just built up. We played through the lines. We got it to the wing. We got a nice low-driven cross in and scored a beautiful goal, probably the goal of the tournament for me. And that was really the game that I was most proud of, even though we lost 5-2. So it was a really interesting weekend for me, just from, again, coaching development, playing in a tournament, and that type of mentality. And at the end of the day, I thought we did really well. We got a win, we got a tie, and we got a loss. And our loss was actually our best performance. So I don't know how we would have played had I gone in that Sunday and, had the same mentality as I did on Saturday. Maybe we would have won that game if I did everything in my power to win. I put players in a lot of different positions on Sunday. We have our defender, our center defender, who's wants to try out for his varsity team and play forward, right? And play up. So I moved him up on the Sunday, right? So we didn't have our regular center back. We had two players that from our 2011 team who are pretty new, right? Gave them a lot more responsibility and stuff like that. So it was really not the same team that played on Saturday. We really built out of the back a lot more. And what's really great is every time we tried to build out of the back, most of it, I would say 9 out of the 10 times, even on the Saturday, we got out of there. The problem was the very first time that we tried it, we just made a little bit of an error. So I sent the attacking mid, who has our big, strong kick, to take the goal kicks, right? And for the rest of the tournament, that's what he did. So we were out of the attacking mid when we were building out of the back. And then eventually on Sunday, I let the goalkeeper take it, and we built out properly, and we got out of there every single time on Sunday. Our goals weren't really mistakes. They were, again, long balls. Our defenders weren't experienced because our strongest defender was playing a different position. So there was a certain point where I played, I think, like a 3 back, and just kind of pushed everyone up trying to get goals, which I thought was fine. You know, that's a good mentality to have, but still trying to build out of the back and all that, but just pushing more players up, I think, is okay. So it was an interesting weekend all around, but it was, I think, a really good learning experience for the players, a really good learning experience for me, and just a really good weekend overall. On the way home, stopped at some farmers markets, got some really cool stuff, and then I went home and started watching I got home pretty late. It was Father's Day as well, so did some stuff and dinner and all that, and then by the time I got home, the Gold Cup final started. And I talked a little bit about this before, but oh my goodness, that was disappointing. Just not what I expect now from Canada, which I think is a really good thing. You know, to have these high expectations is something that I haven't really had before. The way that we played, I think, is now unacceptable. You know, it was acceptable maybe 2 years ago, but with the players that we have, not breaking teams down and just kind of looking to kick the ball up to Davies or Buchanan, who came on later. I don't know why he didn't start. It's just not acceptable anymore. And I think the U.S. really broke us down because we couldn't break them down. We couldn't break them down, so we resulted to kicking it up. And we got frustrated and this and that. And that's just not the Canadian performance that has been consistent and has gotten us to where we are now. So really disappointed with the way that we played in that final. But, you know, they got a medal, and, you know, that's, I think, a really good place to be that we weren't 5-10 years ago. Consistently just not being the favorites, but, you know, also not being a team that people will be like, oh, thank God we have Canada in our group. You know, so yeah, I thought frustrated, ended the game early, couldn't watch the last 2 minutes, but very frustrated from that point of view. And yeah, that was really the weekend. On Monday, we watched the VO, and it was evident watching the VO that that's what we did, that we just kicked the ball up and we weren't really trying to build out. And it was also evident that when we did try to build out, it worked, you know? And I'll say this, even though we did have our attacking mid taking the goal kicks, what was interesting about that is we now had an extra player in the back to help build out of the back. So that was also something interesting that I noticed. So having him come back and take those goal kicks when they were a little bit shorter, when he made the short passes instead of just kicking down and getting it past half, we were able to, again, build out, because we would have our goalkeeper, our two defenders, our fullbacks, and our center defensive mid, because we would play a 4-3-3. And then we would also have our attacking mid making that run up. So as he was doing that, he was also being involved into the play, which resulted in us having an advantage in that area. So, so I thought that was a really interesting thing that we saw. What was also interesting is a lot of these teams didn't have a VO, and it just kind of shows you the discrepancy between the teams that are located in the GTA, which is the Greater Toronto Area, which is the league that we're part of, the TO Soccer League, and Vaughan, which is also close to us, the York region. All those teams have VOs, and it was the small town teams that really don't. And I think from that point of view, any team that can buy a VO for them is going to stand out in these small towns. So I thought that was really interesting. The last tournament that we were at, everyone had a VO, and the rest of the tournaments, except for one, we're going to Niagara maybe as well. I expect to see all the VOs again. But for us, when we start to go to games now, they're everywhere. If you're looking for a VO, which you should, they're awesome. Really just a great way to analyze games and see what's going on, post on social media, and just kind of does the marketing for you, especially if you play the right way. It's a really great marketing tool. There's a special $200 off for us, and you get an iPad. I think that's like $800 off with buying the VO. And if you are looking for that, you can look for that in our show notes. There's a direct link for that for VO. And thanks, VO, for sponsoring the show. Well, I'm really excited about this next topic here, the mentality of the coach. I think that was my biggest weakness this weekend and my biggest strength. It was a huge weakness on Saturday, but reflecting on it Saturday night made it a big strength for me. So the fact that I was able to recognize that my mentality was off on the Saturday and fix it for the Sunday, I think was a really great strength of reflecting on it. Today, I'm going to talk about some different things that really helped me. And these are things that you can take notes and really take a moment before the game starts to reinforce these into your mind. So then that's the mentality that you're going to go into. So let's talk about the first thing. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the power of positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is a really great way to create an environment during the game that's going to foster the next thing, which is growth. So one of the best ways to do this is to really highlight the importance of effort, improvement, and really anything positive that's happening on the field. And the key word there is the first word that I said, which is highlight. Okay. Usually we're focusing on the negative parts of the game. Johnny made a bad pass. Johnny did this. Johnny did that. If we can then shift our mindset during the game and really coach the highlights, right? And you can think about, like a Sportsnet top 10, right? So if you were videoing the game and you were to create a top 10 list, what would those highlights be, right? So let's say Johnny does a really great job of losing their defender, highlight, right? So then you can reinforce that, right? You can focus on that during the game. Way to lose your defender, Johnny. Okay, great 1v1 defending, Johnny, right? Things that you are focusing on if you can find moments during the game, and I would also argue in practice, to highlight that, that's the power of positive reinforcement. You're reinforcing the positive things that are happening. The next thing that we can talk about is embracing a growth mindset. Now, the growth mindset for me is something that is so important to who I am as a person. And I think because of that, it's something that we see within our players. For me, the coaching mentality comes from who you are, the core of who you are. If you are someone that is angry all the time, is negative all the time, that's going to be your coaching mentality. If you are someone that is positive, that has a growth mindset, there's a lot of different things that I'm going to be talking about. These are things that you have to work on yourself. And a growth mindset, one of the best ways to do that, in my opinion, is research and learning every single day. And if you are the type of person that likes to learn, which I'm sure all of you are because you went out of your way to listen to a podcast that educates you, this is something that you will start to see the value of the more you learn things. So for me, what I do, and I've talked about this in the past, is I have a subscription to Audible and I listen to business books. That is what I do on my drive. I listen to business books, and that continuously helps me grow. And because I see the value of the growth mindset, that it's not okay to just stay where you are, and it's what you should be trying to do is continue to get better and better every day. I see it in my life, and I want to pass that on to my players. And that's what our players are able to do. So our focus on 1v1s, for example, that's a growth mindset. Every single practice, we want them getting better. We do the same moves over and over and over again. Growth, growth, growth. We focus on different things, but we're always looking for our players to grow. And if you can come into that game with a growth mindset, then it's really important to try and see those moments within the game, right? And all of these things are things that are important during the pregame talk and the halftime talk. That's when I would use this. So for example, very heavily, we have been focusing on 1v1 defending. So the growth mindset would go from focusing on that in practice, going into the game, and during that speech, saying things like, this week, we really focused on 1v1 defending. Can anyone tell me the points for 1v1 defending that we worked on this week? Well, this week we worked on blocking and we worked on jockeying, right? We don't want to jump in. So emphasizing that and then saying things like, that is what I want to see in the game. Can we try to do that every single time we are faced in a 1v1 challenge? That is the growth mindset. Can we try this? And then bringing it back to the positive reinforcement is when you see those things in the game, then you highlight them, right? Another thing that's really important is resilience in overcoming challenges. Again, these are things that are highlighted within the way that we train, right? How do you create situations where these kids are overcoming challenges, resilience, right? Just getting stronger and stronger. And you do this in these 1v1 sessions, so it's very easy to fall back on that during the game. The amount of times I have fallen back off that is, I can't even count. We would be in a game, and this happened in our last tournament, in our when we did festivals with our 2013 team. We went in against a tier 1 team, and they just kicked our butts. not from a scoreline point of view. We were tied going into halftime, but they were just rough and they would trip. And right before half, we had two players on the ground crying and coming off. And that is the moment where you go back and you say, okay, fine. You're right, right? The ref's not calling, right? He's not making the calls. The other team is tripping us, tackling us, pushing us, grabbing our shirts, all this and all that. But half of you last week played with our 2012s 2 years up, practicing 1v1s, who are just as rough or even rougher than this team. You handled that. Can you go in and, despite this, overcome that? Can you go in and play through this? And that game we went in and ended up winning. And it was the halftime talk of, you've done this before, you've been here, relax, it's fine. It's not going to be easy, it never is, but go for it. The next thing I want to talk about, and this is really important, is balancing competition and development. And the way that we have to do that is really by looking at different players and where they are in their soccer journey. For players that are newer to the team, I think it's okay to keep them in one position. I think that's okay. They're new to the team. They're not really used to the way that you play. So you find a place where they feel like they can shine and they feel like they can do well. However, for players that have been there for a very long time, that's different. Then you start to move them around. And we've had our players that have been with us 4 or 5 years at this point, even 3 years. Those are players that we move around a lot and we put them in different positions because they know how we play. They know how we play everywhere, right? And that's really the difference between that development and competition. When we went into our last game on Sunday, one of the parents came up to me of that defender and told me about it. He said, listen, my son wants to go out for this team, for the school varsity team. He wants to play attack. And that's the difference, right? At that moment, what do you do as a coach? What's more important? Now I want to talk about effective communication as a coach. Now, effective communication is really important. And I see a lot of coaches that I coach against that lack this. If you can't communicate what you want, you have no chance of getting the players to play the way that you want to play, right? And there are 3 things that you can do to take your communication skills to the next level, right? First one is active listening, which is the importance of listening to players' concerns, right? And feedback. A lot of the time, players challenge me, and I love it. I love when players challenge me. It's fantastic, right? Shows they're listening. Some coaches look at it the other way. When a kid challenges them, they'll say things like, oh, well, because I said so. No, that's your chance to engage with the child. That's your chance to have a good conversation with that child and teach them more. They're listening to you. They want more advice. That's your chance. And I think this part is where coaches struggle a lot. Clear and concise instructions. If you are yelling more than 3 words about something, it is not concise enough, right? There are coaches yelling full paragraphs. Johnny, don't forget to do this, that. No. Surfboard, arm out. Switch. Reset. Support. Advice. Furthest foot. Space. 1, 2 words max. At the end of the day, if you're coaching 5 days a week and you're yelling paragraphs, you won't have a voice come Monday. So that's a really important point. Concise, clear. And then constructive feedback. Provide specific, constructive, and focusing on improvement when you give feedback. It's not, oh my God, Johnny, what a terrible pass. No. Johnny, next time when you make that pass, can you use the back part of your penguin? Can you get your toe up in the air? Right? Focus on that improving part. I think it's also really important to go into a game and make sure that you have that team culture, that ability that when the team gets low, that when you're down, that the team can come together. You can do this by doing team building activities, right? And encouraging things like respect, kindness, right? I had a kid, one of our players, during one of our rondos, he's a 2015, say something like, that was one of the worst passes I've ever seen. And at that point, I shut it down so fast, and I make sure that everyone hears that me shutting it down. That's when I yell. That's when I get upset. And players hear that, and they understand that that type of talk is not okay. It's all about kindness, respect. That's what we go in, right? And for me, if we can cultivate that, within a cheer, within, a huddle before, just make sure, hey, we're together, right? We are one. Let's go out there and play like that. Respect each other. These are things that will drastically change the way that you're coaching during the game. And it's just a mentality shift, right? Doing these things, positivity, growth mindset, overcoming challenges and building resilience, balancing competition and development, and effective communication, team culture. If you can do these things and come into a game, focusing on those, it'll change the way that you coach. I guarantee it. And here's the way that I want you to approach it. Get to that game early. Write those points down, right? First point, positive reinforcement, growth mindset, overcoming challenges, development over competition. Not over competition, sorry, that's wrong, right? Development and competition together, but focus on development, effective communication, team culture. Write that down, okay? And just have that with you. And throughout the game, just look at it. Keep looking at it. And you'll start to find moments in the game to coach it. You'll start to find pre-game talks, half talks to coach it. And for your first game, try focusing on the first thing, okay? Go into that first game, positive reinforcement. Focus on that. Second game, growth mindset. Focus on that. And so on and so forth. And you'll start to develop a pattern and a habit of doing it when you see it being successful. And success isn't, winning this, that. Success is seeing the attitude shift. Success is starting to see what you worked on in practice in the game. And when you start to see that, that'll fuel you to continue and get better and better and keep trying and keep building this habit of doing it the right way. I love doing the show. It's absolutely amazing. But unfortunately, the only way that I can really get this information to you is through audio. So if you're looking for something more visual, I've created soccercoachingmastermind.com. Soccer Coaching Mastermind is really everything that I've ever talked about here, but it's a video library of it. I worked very hard to create this content, and the video library is growing every week. This week, I added, I changed the way I did the rondos. on the website. So even if you've already subscribed, which thank you for those that did, it really means a lot. I changed it, added videos and stuff like that. Something that I'm really, really excited about that I've also added is my resource page. The resource page, I'm going to show you everything that everyone that I follow that helps me gain this knowledge and allows me to continue to think of new creative things. But the video library is growing and it's going to continue to grow. Now, I didn't want to make it expensive. I wanted to make it so everyone could afford it. And it's only $10 a month. And with that, you'll gain unlimited access to everything that I teach my coaches, everything that I've ever talked about the show. And as I get better, I'll keep adding more things, just like I do on the show here. I'll also add, if there's ever something that I talk about on the show that needs a visual component, that's all going to be there. So super excited for that. I still don't think it's on Google. It's just for you guys right now. All you have to do is go to soccercoachingmastermind.com. The link is in the show notes, and it's only $10 a month. You know, it's like having a coffee with me, right? A very long, long coffee, because I think at this point, there has to be hours and hours and hours of video content on there. From 5v5 to 11v11, there are so many tactical components to it. I've started the 1v1 deceptive dribbling videos, which I'm going to continue to add to the rondos, basic rondos, how to build tactical rondos based on your specific formation. There's just so much good content and stuff that I share for all of my coaches. And if that's something that you're looking for, just something that, before a session, especially for those that, have a full-time job, you just want to go on it, get a refresher. Today we're going to do basic rondos. What are the points for it? It's a short 5-minute video. And yeah, it's really going to help you. And there's also a community aspect to this as well. With the success of the Coaching Soccer Weekly Facebook group, which now has over 700 members, that's insane. I knew that I wanted to do this as well within the platform. So I've offered a way to do that. You can communicate with other coaches. It's, I think, like a blog type thing where you can just write a blurb and it'll show up for everyone. You can also ask me questions as well. That's something that I'm going to be a lot more active on. The Facebook is not something that I'm going to be active on. That's for you guys and just you guys. But for this, I'm going to share a lot more stuff. People have questions and stuff like that. I'll interject and answer questions if there are videos and sessions that people want to see. I also show you how to come up with a session. If there's a specific thing that you want to work on, how do you find that? How do you pick it up? How do you create a session around that? And these are all things and stuff that I've talked about in the past on the show too, but this is a visual representation of it, and it's a lot more effective than just kind of listening. So only $10 a month. And yeah, if that's something that you're interested in, soccercoachingmastermind.com. There's going to be a link in the description as well. So hopefully you get that. And yeah, that's it for that. We actually don't have any more games until July. So I'm going to be golfing a lot. It's going to be interesting to see, and have a weekend, multiple weekends with no soccer. So excited for that. Excited to golf. It's really nice out. And I really want to start to golf more after that last round. So I will keep you posted on my golf game. No, I won't. Maybe a little. But yeah, there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about, which was shooting. Just a little thing that I did. There are certain players in our academy that fantastic 1v1s and passing and everything. They're just struggling on shooting. Took 3 of them just to our nets, put them in front of the net, and we just repeat it over and over again. These are bow nets, so They would just stand in front of the net, kick it, and it would come right back to them. Now, what I did was, I think they were struggling with which part of the foot to hit it. So I actually took a piece of duct tape, put it on their shoes onto where they should be hitting the ball and which part. And I think that really helped. So I just wanted to share that with you. You never know when you'd be able to use duct tape. That's another, I guess, use for duct tape, which has so many other uses. But yeah, so I thought that was really great. Just put a little strip on the instep, exactly where I wanted them to hit it, and it helped a lot. So yeah, just a cool short tip for shooting for you guys, for something that you can use as well. Also, just before I forget, if you are a coach in the Greater Toronto area and you're looking for a change and you're looking for somewhere to coach where winning is not that important, it's more about development, please send me an email, gladiatorsocceracademy.com. Again, this is only for local coaches. We don't bring in people from outside the country, but if you want to come and coach with us and you live in the Toronto area, North York, feel free to send me a message. Love to have you, especially if you listen to the show. That will save me a lot of time of training. So if that's something you're into and looking for, feel free to send me a chat request or an email or anything of that as well. Well, thanks again for listening to another episode of Coaching Soccer Weekly. As I mentioned, we're not going to have any more games until July 8th. So because of that, we're really looking at focusing on our 1v1 defense during our sessions. And that's really it. We are starting with rondos and then just 1v1s for the whole session. The last 20 minutes, sometimes we do 2v2s, but it's really just about making sure that our players can defend 1v1. We're doing a lot of making sure we're in between the ball and the net and jockeying as well. My big focus is going to continue to be the website, soccercoachingmasterclass.com, and just making sure that it's the best resource for you guys. Just videos and everything that I could possibly put on it to just help you. I know that it's tough sometimes, going from work right into a session, or sometimes you just don't have anything to plan. So this is going to be a really good resource. And every week I'm going to be putting more and more and more content into it. Again, only $10 a month. So that's going to be my big focus from now on, just helping you guys as much as I can. But until next week, enjoy the journey, enjoy the moments, but most importantly, enjoy the game. Coaching Soccer Week is a production of World Class Coaching, all rights reserved. Thanks for listening to another episode of Coaching Soccer Weekly. We don't have any games for the next couple of weeks, so until the second week of July. So we're going to be really focusing on 1v1, but more importantly, defending. Most of our sessions are now going to be rondos and then 1v1s, and then maybe even at the end a little bit of 2v2s, but that's pretty much it. Just really making sure that we're not getting beat 1v1, that we're not jumping in. So that's going to be the focus for us for the next couple of weeks. My focus is going to be to continue to make the soccer coaching mastermind better. It's something that, again, really passionate about, and it's a really great resource. I know that a lot of you are coming straight from work and, want some sort of way to plan sessions and ideas and stuff like that. So this is going to be really good for that. And I'm just going to keep adding more and more stuff, more tactics, more sessions and things like that. So super excited for that. Only $10 a month again. And if it's something that, you're looking forward to improve your coaching and just have a big library.
Hey, thanks for watching all the way to the end. And you can check out more of our videos right here. And if you haven't done so already, I would really appreciate it if you'd hit the like button and the subscribe button.